Some viewers may find the use of cuss words in this video to be offensive. Others won't give a shit. You've been warned. The Underground. This phrase drives us batshit crazy.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Underground, and we are quite literally underground right now. We are in the bunker, which is the name of the underground filming studio here in beautiful Utah. And that's what we've been doing over COVID-19, is building a little bit of a recording studio. We got ourselves a little
Nice little bar.
Nice little bar. Still needs to be attached a bit, so we might interrupt if you see things fall forward. But this is the first time that the three of us have actually been together since episode number 1. So to that, I
Cheers.
say, fellas, cheers.
And by the way, happy 4th of July.
Happy 4th. So anyways, like I said, this is the first time that we've been back together. And we are excited because being the 4th of July 2020, this is actually the 25-year anniversary.
25?
Of this.
2-5.
Did you not know it's 25?
Oh, well, of course I know it's 25, but 25, that just seems like a lifetime ago.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of
Yeah.
was.
It does and it does. It does and it doesn't. Like, I feel, I should feel like it was longer ago, but it just seems like the blink of an eye. Yesterday. It just seems like yesterday to me. But 25 years ago, the story that we're about to tell you
Which we've alluded throughout all of the other episodes.
happened. Like Rick just said, you've heard us allude to it in the episode so far. Especially in that first episode, we talked a lot about our mission story and our mission story as we were introducing the whole concept and purpose of what we're doing here on the Underground. And just to kind of reiterate what we're doing here on the Underground. Because since that first episode, since the first time that we've all been together, we've aired 2 additional episodes and a little mini episode. And we're starting to get responses from people. And we want you to know, if you're watching this and you have something that you want to share, please feel free, reach out to us. We will listen. We'll schedule a time. If you want to meet with us face-to-face over Zoom, we'll set up a Zoom call. And we would love to hold some space with you, hear your story. And if you are open to it, we'd love to have you come down, have a beer with us. We'll squeeze you in here and give you an opportunity to share your own story.
And to reiterate something else we've talked about, doesn't matter what background, what religion, it's all kind of the same process. That it's might be different circumstances here and there, but overall, we're all kind of dealing with the same types of things, leaving whichever religion you might be leaving and transitioning out of. So
Absolutely.
And that's really the beauty of all this, is it's not just subject to one or maybe one specific, religion, and I'm talking Christianity or whatever, but the beauty of it is this is open to anybody
absolutely.
that has some sort of transition that they're going through.
It's really kind of the open-minded is who we're looking for. People that have become a little bit more open-minded and are thinking outside of that box that they grew up in.
So let's transport back in time.
We're going to travel back to the time when Schindler's List was the Academy Award winner, when bands like Pearl Jam and Alice in Chains and Soundgarden were cranking out hits. So it's the early 90s. 1993 is when the three of us actually went out and left for our missions. Rick came from Tooele, Utah. Sean came from Layton, Utah. And I came out from Seattle, Washington. And the three of us happened to go to the same little cities in Victoria, Australia. Now, we had a mission president who we talked about. We've talked about John B. in the past. We all did great with him. Any problems with John B?
And a great rapport.
I've talked about how he was kind of a father figure. He was kind of what we'd all heard about in terms of good mission presidents. And
the type of mission president that you expected to have when you
right.
Yeah.
went out.
It's interesting because we've actually heard feedback about him through some of the comments in the videos that we've put up. We've heard other people share their perspective, and that's what this is really about. This is about the perspective coming from Elda McKinley and Elda Howard and Elda Hales. This is our perspective of that situation, and that's what happened. So 1994, John B. Stolten goes home after serving a mission for 3 years, and they've got to get a new mission president to come out. Well, they called the mission president. His name, does anybody remember what his name was?
Yeah, Elder Hobbs.
Yeah.
Hobbs.
President Hobbs was called. There was a picture of him and his wife. That I've got it in my journal right here, so I'm sure we'll put it in the screen. But President Hobbs was called. We were excited. We were getting ready.
We were all looking forward to a new change.
The changing of the guard.
Just, I mean, not that we were looking forward to Stolten going home, but we were just all looking for, it's an exciting time to get a new mission
Well,
president.
because it's a big deal, because their mission presidents are there for 3 years. So 3 years is a long time.
And he and his wife really are kind of your surrogate parents while you're out there, right? So they're the ones that are kind of looking over you and giving you advice and stuff like that. So so we're kind of looking forward to who our next president's going to be.
I mean, I wrote about it in my journal. I talk about President Hobbs coming out. Looking forward to meeting President Hobbs, except President Hobbs didn't come out.
And why didn't he come out? Do you guys remember?
He got an
ear
ear
infection.
infection.
Yes.
He had an ear infection right before he was supposed to travel from continental United States down under. And they wouldn't allow him to travel internationally because of it. Eardrum can rupture and whatnot. So now they're kind
of in a bind because they need somebody right away to commit to go serve as mission president.
With like a month's notice. A month's notice, we need you to drop everything and go serve a mission for 3 years. And they pay for it.
So they went to him and they asked him to go serve. And they said, look, we're in a bind. We need somebody to go out. Will you do this?
When you say they, let's quantify. They is the part of the church hierarchy that calls these mission presidents.
And I think we need to establish, I know most people who've watched this or know of this will understand, but we're talking about the mission or the church leaders of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, better known as the Mormons. So the leaders of the church go to him saying, we're kind of in a bind, we need somebody to go. Will you go?
He said, fuck you! No, he didn't want to do it. He said no.
So then they kind of worked out another deal with them where they said, look, we are really in a bind. Go for 1 year. Mm-hmm. If you decide you want to stick it out for the 3 years, you can. Otherwise, you can just come home after a year.
But that would give him enough time to call somebody and replace them.
And so he finally agreed to that. So we get D. Earl Hurst.
So I want to make this very clear. This information we're sharing, it's information that we've heard along the way. But I distinctly remember hearing that and knowing about that in Australia. Like, as a missionary, I remember knowing that he didn't... I remember they stood up in zone conference. So zone conference is when missionaries and areas get together, and then the mission president and his wife, they come and they do interviews with the missionaries, and they bring you your mail, and then they feed you lunch, and then you have to listen to talks and all sorts of stuff. And I remember during zone conference, Sister Hurst telling us that they didn't want to come. They didn't want to be there. So out of the gates, like, first impression was they were doing a favor.
We're getting somebody who doesn't really want to be there, essentially.
It wasn't that, hey, we're excited about coming out here. It was almost begrudgingly. Now, they came, so props to them for that. I'm not talking shit about them, but it wasn't that excited mission president that was like, fuck, we've been wanting to serve a mission for so long, and now here we are, we're mission presidents. It was, we didn't want to come, and we're doing y'all a favor.
We've talked about it in our episodes. I talked a lot about it in my episode. Oh, I say a lot about it, but we've talked about how Hurst was very numbers driven. He came in, started making a lot of changes, which would lead to your point. And they were changes that just didn't sit right with us. And we increasingly, at this point, started going from being happy and enjoying things to being unhappy and disgruntled.
Now, I'm gonna be honest, because in going back and reading my journal, I know that there was unhappiness in my mission prior to the Hursts coming. For a long time, I just blamed him. But as I've gone through, as we've been doing this podcast, I've been going back and reading my journals. This is just 2 of the 4 journals that I kept. Rick's got his right there. And I was very unhappy with things in my mission before Hearst got there. However, when they showed up,
Kind of got amplified.
they really stirred things up. Now, I can think of 4 main policies that they changed almost right away, and maybe one of them wasn't a policy as much as it was a guideline. But first thing I remember happening is being at a zone conference around October of 1994.
Yeah.
So that would mean that Hearst has been in the mission since July to August, September. So he's been there for 3 months, and we go to a zone conference, and at zone conference, they tell us that they are cutting back our allotment that we're given to live off of. We got every 2 weeks. We talked about it in Rick's episode a little bit. We got anywhere from $110 to $140, and then it got cut by $20. So if you had a car, now you went down to $120, now had to pay for all your petrol. And if you didn't have a car, you went from $110 down to $90. And that just felt like a sting, because at 19, 20 years old,
You talk about rationing.
We're already living off of $100 for every 2 weeks.
And
so
let me-
to get $20 taken off, it's like.
I think you need to know, we weren't paying, the rent was paid, the utilities were paid. We didn't have to worry about anything like that, but we had to worry about food, doing our laundry, if we wanted to do anything, if we wanted to see anything on like our day off. We get 1 day a week from 9:30 in the morning until 6 o'clock at night. That's called a preparation day. And that's the day that you're supposed to write your letters home and do your laundry.
Yeah.
But for us, that was when all the missionaries went into Melbourne.
It was our day off from.
We've talked about when Sean and I really kind of hit it off as friends. It was because we were on a preparation day in Melbourne, and we were hanging out with friends. And so I just remember going, okay, $20, that's not a lot. That's $40 a month. But damn, that's a lot of Burger King. Or as they call in Australia, Hungry Jacks.
Well, the other thing that plays into that I talked about in my episode where we were getting fed every night from the
Well, we're not there yet. We're not there yet, because that's coming. But I'm still just going, fuck, dude. Like, how are we supposed to live?
I was just going to say that was one of the things we didn't have to pay for our meals at this point because we were getting fed all the time.
True.
But still, we're living off $100 or so every 2 weeks, and now 20 of that's wiped out. So that was kind of frustrating.
And the reasoning was missions over budget, kind of along the lines of what you said. I'm here for a year.
Cleaning things up. Yep.
I remember being told that Hearst ran some type of oil company in Texas.
An oil taken.
So he was used to the budgets of the 50s and the 60s and the 70s of running companies, and now he's in his 70s. He's got knuckleheads like us. Yeah, he's retired. He doesn't want to be here. His wife doesn't want to be here in Australia, and now they've got to come and deal with these riffraff that are over budget. So, not a problem. Didn't think about it. It was kind of like one of those Christmas vacation things where it looked good on paper, but I'll tell you, it certainly was one of the first things that really just got to me and made me go, that's bullshit, man. Like, why should I have to live off of $40 less a month? That doesn't make sense. My parents are paying for me to be here. Like,
mind you, we were paying at the time. It was $450 is what our parents are paying at the time
to work for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and be salespeople.
And out of that 450, whatever it was, we got a quarter. Well, we got half of it. We got half of it, but everything else
but
went
then
to
the rent went out of that and utilities.
So that's the first thing that happened. Then as Rick is starting to talk about, like a month or two later, it might have even been the next month, they tell us.
So they decide that we're spending too much time at members' houses, which in reality
we certainly were.
It was an excuse for us to go and hang out with members and not have to be out knocking on doors and shit like that.
That was the way that we were taught.
But I explained.
Right.
Members were supposed to be that source of bringing investigators to missionaries.
But like you just said, that's what we were taught to do from day one of me being on a mission was going, oh yeah, we're having dinner over at the jury's houses. Oh, we're going over to
The Mander's house.
whoever, the chapels.
And
we're
so
having dinner, and so that was what we did.
And it got to the point where, like I explained in the last episode, we would just take a calendar to church with us at the beginning of the month, and that would get passed around, and by the time it got back to us, every single night would be filled in with a different family that was going to feed us that night. So we were getting the $110, we're getting fed every night, but now our money is slashed, and now he decides that because we're spending too much time at members' houses, that we're only allowed to now have 3 tea dates a week. So we get cut from 7 meals every week that we don't have to worry about paying for to 3 to go along with the money that's just been cut.
Literally month or 2 months after losing $40. Now, look, if you're watching this saying that we sound like disgruntled employees.
And I said, I don't care if they lay me off either, because I told Bill that if they move my desk one more time, then I'm quitting.
Goddamn right. You're absolutely right.
Word.
This was our life. This is what we were doing. And this was the kind of the thanks that we were getting. So we go from having Sister Stolton, who was the mission president's wife prior to Sister Hurst, who I remember would stand up and she'd give a 30-minute talk about the book of Revelation, which was the opposite of what
All I remember,
he told you as being spiritual pornography. It was so addicting to just like hear her talking about exciting things.
Well, in terms of like her understanding for the gospel, not just principles, but like doctrine, she was elevated, right?
She was a smart, sharp woman. John
Yeah.
was an
and
attorney.
intellectualist.
now
She
you
was very-
contrast that with
Betty. And they just cut our dinner appointments and our allotment, and they knew that it was fucked up because her zone conference talks were things that you can cook with rice.
You see, it's got raisins in it. You like raisins.
or I can't wait to be home for Christmas.
Yeah.
She would stand up at zone conference and talk about the fact that she's going home to see her family. So it's just like,
And you've got to understand, we're 19, 20, 21-year-old people that are away from our families for the first time in most cases, homesick, wanting to see our families, and here our mission president's wife, who's been out there for a few months, is talking about how great it's going to be when she gets home to her family in a few months because they're not staying for the whole time that a president normally would. And so that just rubbed us the wrong way to go along. You know, it was just kind of a little bit more salt in the wound from these previous other things that we've been talking about.
I mean, we understand what, genuine type personalities are. This was the...
I'm so glad you said that.
Oh,
I'm so glad you said
genuine.
that. I was just going to say, when I was talking with Stolton or Sister Stolton, I felt a connection. I felt a desire to have a connection. When I talked to President Hurst or Sister, I don't think I ever talked to Sister Hurst, but when I would speak to President Hurst, it just felt like he was just trying to get through the interview, get done with it.
It was just that. It was just an interview.
He was psychoanalyzing.
With Hurst, it was
He
a
was
conversation.
employed,
Or sorry, with Stolton, it was a conversation. With Hurst, it was an interview.
In a letter I wrote to my parents back on November 22nd, 1994, this is what I say talking about the difference between President Stolton and President Hurst. In my letter, I say, President Stolton wrote to me the other day, and that was odd. I can't believe that he remembered me. He was only here for 9 months of my mission, but yet he wrote me. He told me that he'd been thinking about me, and that normally meant I was going through a rough time. He's somewhat right. Sure, I go through hard times on my mission, but that's just what it's about, isn't it? Anyways, he told me that my trials and experiences were the Lord's way of preparing me to be a husband and a father. I really do love President Stolton. He was such a great guy. With President Hurst, he would never take the time to tell you something like that. And that's how come it's so hard for us to relate to him. He just doesn't show much sincerity in what he does. Sure, he's a good guy, but in other areas about him, he fails as a good mission president. I guess I'm just so disappointed. He and his wife are so opposite from the Stoltons. It's hard to make the transition, even though they've been here 4 months already. Who cares? Before I know it, he'll be gone, and I'll have 2 months left, so I suppose I can make it.
Yeah.
There was no attempt to try and connect. It was just,
Cold.
how you doing? How are your numbers?
our beers just got full. I love that. If you're keeping score, that's 2. So,
Not counting the ones before.
there's just a different energy now coming from the mission home. And I remember that was what I felt the most. I started feeling like an employee. I remember shortly after all that had happened, we go to a regional Christmas conference. We've talked a little bit about the regional Christmas conference because that's where Rick and I met. And at the regional Christmas conference, we were super excited because there was going to be one of the bigger leaders of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints actually coming out to speak to us. So
For those of you who know, it was a general authority, and we were excited that this general authority was coming to speak to us.
he was in the area presidency, so there's a president and 2 counselors, and they were over the South Pacific area, so that included Australia and New Zealand and Fiji
Sri
and probably
Lanka.
Hawaii and all those islands. So these guys are your typical CEOs coming from Salt Lake City to meet with the mission. Well, we were excited because I didn't know he was a CEO. I still thought he was just a general authority. I thought they were just nice fucking guys that talked about Jesus
They were
and
coming
wanted
to-
to teach
Yeah,
missionaries
they were coming to teach us
how to
and-
be better missionaries. I was so excited.
Well, these guys are the same guys that you turn on every 6 months.
Yeah.
And right? They're talking. They're
And you listen to them.
So in
talk.
the Mormon Church, they have a biannual conference. So it's the entire church gets together to watch the general authorities and the first presidency of the church get together and give talks and kind of guide the members of the church. And now we have one of these guys coming out to our missions to talk to
Yeah,
us.
you grow up watching these guys, and now one's coming to talk to you. And I just remember being so excited. And at first it started off and it was fun. It was the Christmas talent show review, and everybody did a skit, and I did my famous D. Earl Hurst impression. And, then we all have lunch, and then we go in and we listen to this general authority who fucking lit into us. And tells us if we do not have a 5th stake created by the time that D. Earl Hurst goes home in July,
in 7 months now. 'Cause he's
we
been
will
there.
be held accountable in the eternities.
Now,
Merry Christmas.
I don't want to get too in depth on this. We've talked about it before, but a stake. So we've broken down the way a mission is set up, and the church is set up sort of similar, where you've got what are called stakes,
Right?
and that's going to be a large area, and all the churches or wards that they're called in the church that are in that area are part of a stake. And so in any, we had 4 stakes in all of Victoria, and that's small. Australia's not a big location for the church.
At the time, there was
But-
only one temple, which is a holy place for Mormons. There was only one temple in the entire country.
Yeah.
And that was in Sydney.
So like he said, he came and told us that we had to create this 5th stake, and the purpose was to be able to, they had to have 5 stakes in order to
Get their own
qualify
temple.
to get a temple there. And so he told us if you don't create this new stake and make Victoria ready to get a new temple, you will be held accountable. And it was kind of a shock. I remember leaving that just shocked, and upset that he's putting all this pressure on us of we have to create this stake. Look, going into our mission, we knew that the average baptism for a missionary in that mission for 2 years was 1 baptism. So there wasn't a lot of baptizing
one
going
and a
on.
half.
This is what I say about it in my journal on 21st of December, 1994. I say that I had been requested to do my President Hearst impression, which I gladly did. We did a mock zone transfer meeting with the APs. So we straight up legit made fun of their process of inspiration in front of the general authority and the mission president. Then I said the last part of the conference was a rebuke by Elder V. Dallas Merrill, but I won't talk about that. I remember driving home in the car with Elder Jensen and Sister Cuthers and Sister Gurr and going,
What the hell? It just happened.
I don't know what anybody else is thinking right now, but what I'm thinking is, fuck this. Like, I just remember being like, I'm out here working my ass off, and I just got told as my Christmas inspirational message from a general authority, these people that, as we said, that I had put on a pedestal, that if we don't create another stake, found out the reason why. You have to have 5 stakes in order to qualify for a temple.
Yep.
Elder V. Dallas Merrill has a dissertation that he wrote about creating more stakes in the area presidency. So it's interesting to go and read it. We'll put a link below in the comment section if you want to go and check it out. Backs up everything that we're saying. We got our ass chewed out by the CEO. Well, I guess he's not the CEO. He was just a pissant little VP.
He was a VP.
Quorum of the 70.
Yeah.
But yeah, Merry Christmas. If you guys don't have another stake here created in one of the lowest baptizing areas in the world, you're going to be held accountable.
And what it makes it sound like to a 20-year-old kid is if you don't create this stake.
Is hellfire and brimstone.
Yeah.
That's what it
Yes.
essentially what
From
it
a
was.
general authority. From a general authority. So I just remember driving home and being like, yeah, you know what? Fuck it. It's Christmas. I'm off. I'm taking time off.
I'm taking the week off.
Thank God I was with JJ and Cuthers and Gurr, who all were just like, you know what? Yeah, this is bullshit. Like, it was just, that was where it really got real. Then, right after that, was when they told us that if we didn't have an investigator, somebody that was looking to be baptized, we wouldn't be able to go to 2/3 of the church service. We could go to the first part, but after that, the last 2 hours of the service, we had to piss off and leave. And normally I wouldn't have cared, but I was a missionary trying to do missionary things, and going to church kind of feels like a missionary thing.
And if you remember, if we go back just a little bit further too, that's where stats really became. If you didn't have, I can't remember what it was, 21st discussion.
Here we go into the next part that I wanted to talk about, that guideline that came out where they started pushing 40 discussions a week. Now, a discussion is when you're meeting with somebody that wants to investigate the church, and you schedule a time to go to their house and teach a lesson.
There's a set of lessons.
6.
Set of 6 different discussions that you have to memorize and basically present them word for word to these investigators.
If you were working, let's say, for maybe a sales company, it would be your sales presentation. It was 6 discussions, all leading up to committing the member to be baptized, introducing the concept of paying tithing and living the word of wisdom and obeying the law of chastity.
Learning how to do the heart
and
sale.
baptism. So it's just, you're preparing them to accept the church and get baptized. And so you go through 6 different discussions.
And they're now saying that the expectation, so to speak, is now 40 discussions a week. And I just remember sitting in that zone conference going, again, are you kidding me? Like 40 discussions a week. I think I referenced it in my mission where I talk about working with one of the hardest working missionaries that I served with, Elder Knotts. And our goal was to try to teach 13 discussions a week. And they wheel some guy in from another zone, Barney, and he stands up in front of everybody and bears his testimony about teaching 40 discussions in a week. And I just remember sitting there with, I think all 3 of us were together. That was the one where I showed you that picture.
We're talking Judson.
That I just showed you.
We're talking...
yeah, you don't have to go into names.
Yeah.
We can just call him Barney, because that was what we called him. But I remember sitting there with you 3 going, dude, this is just getting more and more ridiculous every day. It's just like, it's really starting to feel like we're working as employees, and they don't see us as human beings anymore. We're just kind of servants.
Servants with, what do you call it, quota?
Yeah, just these robots that aren't allowed to be human, and we just expect you to be great. So, now at this point, on top of these new policies that are happening, things are starting to go on between my relationship with the mission president that are weird. I remember I had been in an area for 6 months, and I was begging to get out of it. I specifically had an area that I wanted to get to. I'd heard about Geelong, Australia, and Geelong, Victoria.
So, I just want to get to Geelong. I get to Geelong. I'm there for 2 weeks. And one night, out of the blue, I get a phone call.
That's
Let's blow your mind there.
the Aussie.
That's how the
ring.
phones in Australia ring. Pick it up. It's the mission president. And he goes, Elder McKinley, I just wanted to see how you're doing. How's your new area? And I'm going, it's great. You don't get called by the mission president.
The only time you hear from the
States.
mission president is if you're in a leadership position
Mm-hmm.
and he's calling to tell you that you're getting transferred.
So he calls me and he roundabout goes, Elder McKinley, I keep getting all these missionaries that say they want to serve with you. And I'm like, okay, I knew that Chad was kind of going at him for that, but I hadn't met you yet. You and I hadn't really started talking too much about it yet. And he goes, do you know why that is? And I went, no.
Because I'm a cool motherfucker.
Is it because I'm not a pain in the ass and I'm a little bit more lenient? Maybe. I don't know. And I go, I don't know. And I don't know. And he goes, well, that's what it is, Elder McKinley. I said, you're so humble. And I went,
That it was
Exactly
not
what
it.
was.
That was not
okay.
it.
So the next morning we wake up and phone rings at like 6:30. Answer the phone and they go, your companion needs to be on a train at 11:30. Get a member of the ward to go on splits with you. You'll pick up your new companion at like 1 o'clock. And turned out it was JJ that was getting shipped into me. Okay, fine, cool, love JJ. Now it's December. We've just had that mission conference. My entire district gets transferred out. The sisters are gone. JJ's gone. And they bring in Higgins, Falele, and Johnson. What up, Dave? And I'm with these guys for a week. Then they call us up and go, oh, no, you're getting a new companion. You're getting Elder Vecoso. And he's the zone leader. And that's who you're going to be serving with.
Yay.
And then 2 weeks after that, maybe not even that long, I remember praying, going, I'm going to kill this guy or he's going to kill me. The next morning, I get called, emergency transferred. Okay, so I'm with Vicoso. I get transferred. This is my second transfer in 2 months, October, November, December. So yeah, in 2 months, this is my third transfer, except it's an emergency transfer. Higgins and I get sent into Melbourne from Geelong, and I remember they just dropped us off. We had no idea what was going on.
How long were you with Higgins?
Oh,
Like a
that
couple
was the beginning of January. No, January and February. I got with Fraser at the end of February, beginning of March. So we move into this flat, and I remember walking in the door and going, holy shit, what happened in here? And just feeling, we talk about energy, feeling this energy that something went down in this apartment. That's a whole different episode. So I'm going through this cycle of transfers, emergency transfers. That was my third emergency transfer that I'd survived. One in Tasmania, one with JJ, and now this third one with Higgins. I would have one more. Do you remember that one?
Yes, I do.
So
the week before.
it just started messing with me. It just started making me feel like we were just these guys that they were just throwing around.
I'm gonna need you to go ahead and come in tomorrow. So if you could be here around 9, that would be great. Okay?
Just
Pawns.
throwing
They're
us
just being
around
moved
whenever they
around the
wanted to.
chessboard.
And we're not talking like a new area, like I moved into a different, like I moved like an hour and a half, 2 hours away from where I was. And I remember it sucked because we had just gotten our allotment and I'd gone shopping with Vicoso and then get emergency transferred. And you can't take your food with you. You're only allowed to have one one check bag and a carry-on. So it just starts feeling like they're throwing us around. At least that's how it felt for me. I don't know. What were you guys experiencing?
Welcome to my world.
You
I
were
had
starting to get
23
disgruntled.
I had 23 companions throughout my entire mission in Australia.
In Australia.
So emergency transfers, I understand very well.
Real quick, because I want you to go, because we haven't heard your story yet, so you can go in a little more detail. But I already sort of told, this is the part where, this is about the same time where I was in the city for the first time. I get transferred back out to the bush. I'm told that it wasn't because of anything I've done wrong, Then once I get transferred, I'm told that's exactly what I was transferred out there. And this is where I start calling home more. And so this is when I'm starting to go down that road too.
So what you're starting to hear is, for lack of better words, this is the beginning of the underground.
So
This is where we're starting to get bugged by the way that we're getting treated from the mission home.
So what about you? So we're going to obviously hear more in detail about this stuff when you do your episode. But at this point, what's going on with you?
Boy, there was a lot going on with me, because when I make reference of being transferred while having 23 companions, I mean, I certainly understand, emergency transfers, because
How many did you have?
emergency transfers?
Yeah.
Well, I was always the one that, hey, we need you to go and serve with so-and-so, because so-and-so just beat the shit out of...
That was my first emergency transfer.
Yeah, so-and-so just beat the shit out of their companion, so you need to go and
Step in.
be with that companion.
So, okay, January, February 1995, where are you at?
So I had left Caulfield. I'd gone out to Lilydale, and I was now serving with one of what was considered one of the I say ZAM, one of the most hardworking missionaries.
Tell them what ZAM means.
Well, ZAM is extremely by the book. By the book means
No gray area.
right.
No gray
It's
area.
totally letter of the law. These are the rules. You follow them.
So I go out to Lilydale, only to find out that this guy's checked out. He's ready to go home. But then he leaves, and I go do an emergency transfer. And now I'm an emergency transfer for Epelu and Toliafoa. And this is where things really start to... Because I'm now being asked, speaking of spies, I'm now being asked to keep tabs on certain missionaries because they want to know...
Who asked you this?
Oh, this was the zone leaders that were being told by...
So we edited that part about talking about the spies. We didn't get into that yet. We started over. So what he's alluding to is what I said earlier, that there started to become this rumor that there were missionaries that were spying on other missionaries to see what was going on.
And we're being asked to put missionaries in these situations to where it was a severe check mark, or, hey, we can send you home now because we have this information on you.
So
right?
were you saying it went from AP to zone leader to you?
It had to have been.
So, but it was the zone leaders that came to you and said, hey, we want you to keep an eye on such and such.
Yes.
Assistants to the president, those are the two missionaries that get called. They're the best of the best, Johnny. They go to the top.
Johnny's not going to see this.
I'm not talking to your brother, Johnny. I'm just, the top up what is the Beatles? They said, where we going? John Lennon would say, where are we going, guys? And they'd be like, the top. And they'd be like, where's that? And they'd say the toppermost of the poppermost. The APs were at the top of the mission. They were the ones that were working side by side with the mission president. But they were the guys that were at the beach earlier with us.
Essentially, you were told you needed to
start taking tabs on those missionaries who they were wanting to start, making the argument, I guess you could say, on who to send home. And prior to this, I'd been asked this.
What bullshit! I just want to say that. What bullshit!
This many times before. Hey, if you can find a situation to help put somebody in.
You were told this?
Oh yeah. Going back to right before the regional conference in December.
We'd been talking about serving since 1994. At this point, you're with Chad in January, February of 95. Chad was a really good friend of mine that I had served around in Tasmania. We'd gotten to know each other when he was serving in the mission home. He was a secretary. And so Chad and I would talk on the phone. Now, we're going to pause for just a second here. Let's talk about the phone. Missionaries are not supposed to call anybody that doesn't live in their area. Missionaries are supposed to go to bed every night by 9:30 every night and get up at 6:30 every morning. We're 20-year-old guys. We're working for this company that we feel like we're being treated like shit. So what do? We're not allowed to talk to the members about it.
We call each other to vent.
We're not allowed to
And-
talk to our parents. We can't call to our parents and talk to our parents. The mission handbook says if we have a problem, we're supposed to call the mission president, not our family. We don't have any outlet to vent the frustration that we have. So what do is we just talk to each other.
Which I think would have been the case anyway, just from the standpoint that we were the only ones going through the same thing. So we understood what each other was going through, and so we could relate to everything, and we just,
And it makes sense that they didn't want us to talk about it to each other. They didn't want us complaining about it. I get that.
To sharing notes, right? Essentially.
Which
And-
this kind of leads into, and I know this is where you're going, this leads into one of the other things that President Hearst tried to implement that really rubbed us the wrong way. So we have this mission conference coming up. Well, just a few days before this mission conference, he decides that he finds out that people are talking to each other and calling each other, and decides he's going to do something about it. So he changes all of the phone numbers in the mission. And a couple days later, we have a mission conference, which we've explained. This is where most of the missionaries in the mission get together for this meeting. And so, of course, the first thing we do when we get there...
What did every missionary
is
do?
exchange phone numbers with each other. Hey,
bro, what's your number, man? All right, cool.
And so
hey, do you have JJ's number? Oh, yeah. Okay, cool. Hey, what's your number, dude? All right,
So
cool.
dumb.
Do you have Snow's number? Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, that was it. Not every, that's very absolute. Lots of missionaries are just getting everybody's phone numbers. Well, we're jumping ahead because we haven't even gotten the fact that you and I are together. But at this point, Sean and I had convinced the mission president that we needed to serve together. I was trying to get either one of these guys. I had 6 months to go. I was down to my last home stretch. I'd been frustrated. I'd been just feeling like crap, just wanting to quit, wanting to be done, but afraid of what that would look like if I came home. Rick talks about it in his episode about just the worst mark you can bring on your family is getting sent home from your mission.
so you guys are together now.
We're together.
So we've talked about, I'm out in the bush. I'm in Sunbury at this time with Wilden. And I get notified that I'm being transferred to a place called Frankston. So in our mission, everybody wants to go to Tasmania.
Really?
Everybody wants to go to Tasmania. But if you don't go to Tasmania on the mainland, you want to go to Frankston. Frankston is just this, it's on the bay that Melbourne is on. So it's ocean. It's
Very
just
upper middle class.
upper middle class. Just a beautiful location. So if you're on the mainland and can't get to Tasmania, you want to go to Frankston. So I get notified.
Frankston. Frankston.
Yeah.
So
that's where the mission.
I find out I'm going to Frankston, so I'm kind of pumped about that. With as much shit as I've been going through and dealing with, I'm kind of excited to be going to Frankston.
And you went from Frankston back to Sunbury?
No.
Oh,
I
God.
finished it. No, I went from Sunbury to Frankston.
Yeah.
Oh.
But I'm put with this Australian guy who's Zam. And so we didn't really get along. But my saving grace, and I don't know if he'll ever watch this, but Rob Dog, I was in a 4-man flat again, and a guy named Kelly Robinson was in my flat, and we really hit it off. And that, like I was reading my journal recently about how he just kind of saved me during this time period, because I was just really unhappy. And I'm with this mission companion that's, again, very by the book, letter of the law. And so I'm unhappy, but when I go back to the flat at night, he's with, I think that was when he was with Frank's. Is that what we were talking about earlier?
Yeah.
Anyway, he was with another guy from New Zealand, and they were both pretty cool. And so we'd get back to and that was my time to just kind of get away from the bullshit. So that's where I'm at. I'm in Frankston, although I've got a companion I'd rather not have. I'm in a great place. I've got these 2 other guys that we live with that are really good. And this is where we come to the point where President Hearst is getting ready to get sent home.
So now, even though we're all dealing with all this shit and we're unhappy, at least the thing that was on my mind was, here in the next little while, we're going to be getting a new mission president coming in. And we talked about how that's kind of exciting because you're getting this new leader of the mission. And we just saw it as a change. And my perspective was this: the last year of my mission has not been good. I haven't been doing the work that I should be doing as a missionary. These other things have been going on, but this is my chance for change and to turn things around and finish my last 4 months off on a positive note. That was my mindset, is let's just get past when President Hearst goes home, we get a new mission president, and I can have a good last 4 months of my mission.
And it's interesting you say that, because I remember sitting down with this guy saying, hey, now that we're together,
This is our shot.
this is our shot. We're going to work hard. And so for the first week,
What are the
The next
chances-
day,
What are the
maybe.
chances
No.
that
No.
would-
No, that's not
no,
true.
no, no.
Look, we really,
we did. We went out
because
and
we had
worked.
been advocating to get together for months.
Yeah.
I remember after I was with Higgins in that dark apartment, I was going to Hearst going, dude, you've been dicking me around. I trained for you. I was a trainer. Then you sent me to Geelong. You did those 3 crazy transfers on me. I'm in this dark area where there was a really shitty thing that happened to somebody in the flat that I'm living in. And I just want to, look, let me finish. Let me die in the bush. Just put me with Hales. Put me with Howard. Put me with one of those 2 guys. I'm tired of the drama. I'm tired of the bullshit. I just want to go out and finish my mission. Please let me go. And he puts me,
In the city.
he moves me like 2 blocks away
In the
with
city.
the zone leader, the guy that would become the AP, because he says he wants to train me to be his zone leader. He kept telling me, Elder McKinley, the mission respects you as a, what did he say? He told me that they respected me as an individual, but they didn't respect me as a leader, and he wanted me to be his zone leader. And I said, I don't want to be his zone leader.
Okay, so now where do you go?
During all of this?
So-
Well, this
This is before we get together. This is at the same time that you're going
Okay.
out to Frankston.
All right, so now you 2 are together. I'm in Frankston. Now, this brings us to the point of this whole story.
Well, we were getting to the phone call. We kind of got off track a little bit because the phone conversation, there was a big thing that happened. Yeah, they changed the phone numbers. Yeah, all the missionaries went and exchanged numbers to each other. But we were friends with Elder Atwell,
and we got a
who
list.
was a member in Australia who was serving like a part-time member mission.
A service missionary.
He was doing a service missionary, and he was working in the mission home, and he was just our boy. He would take us to dinner. He would just come over.
This
he was
guy
just.
was a 70-year-old single guy. Right?
I got a picture of me with Elder Atwell. We'll put that up. He had all these shotguns and stuff.
Yes.
He had the machine that we hooked up to you that made your arms go all up. But so this guy shows up, knocks on our flat one day. He comes in, and he's like, I got something for you. And we're like, what's that? And he pulls out of his jacket the new roster from the mission home.
The
He had
phone-
found
the phone
he had-
list.
He had found a copy of the phone list and photocopied it and given it to us. We didn't ask for it.
No.
It just came to us. So the following day was a P day, and we were in the city. And one of the sister missionaries came up to me and said, hey, do you have so-and-so's number? And I was like, yeah, hang on. And I just pulled out the list that I had in my white handbook. I'd written some phone numbers down and gave her the number. Everybody was doing it. Well, the next morning is a Tuesday morning, and we're getting ready to leave the flat, and at like 9:15 on a Tuesday morning. And I remember looking at you being like, there is no reason that anybody should be knocking on our door at 9 o'clock in the morning. We go to the door.
Mind you, they should be up and getting ready to leave their flat.
Oh, we
anyway.
were. I said that. We were
In
getting.
15 minutes.
We were getting ready to leave by 9:30. We lived with these 2 Vietnamese speaking elders, and one of them that we knew was literally spying on us. We have a tape recorder that recorded a conversation where he totally straight up fucking lied to the mission president about us. So, knock at the door, we open it up. It's the 2 APs. They separate us. They take us into different rooms. And they say, we hear you have a list. And I was like, a list of what? And they're like, a list of phone numbers. A member told us. And I was like, who? Like, what member told you? And they're like, Elder McKinley, it was a member. I'm like, by a member, do you mean like a missionary? And they're like, oh, Elder McKinley. At this point in the mission, there's a lot of lying that's going on. Rick told his story about Hearst was lying to his dad about him being in a good place after Rick had just talked to his dad being like, I am not in a good place. So there was a lot of distrust in the mission. And I'm like, who told you? Who told you that we have a list? Because you guys were the geniuses that changed the phone numbers and then 2 days later had zone conference. I'm like, you guys didn't think that through? You didn't think that missionaries were going to give each other the phone numbers? They're like, how did you get the list? I'm like, everybody's got the numbers. I wasn't going to give up Atwell. I wasn't going to say anything about that. He was a good guy. He liked us. He just saw that we were going through some shit. So I remember you got interviewed. Then they came back a second time. And then they came back a third time that night. And they took the phone receiver. They unplugged it. And they're like, they gave it to the two guys that we lived with.
This
they're like,
sounds so juvenile
they're like,
that
when
it's
you guys
almost-
leave the flat, you guys take the phone handle with you. That way these two people can't call anybody. And we're just like, it's like $9 to go buy a phone. And we don't have a lot of money, but if we wanted to, we could. So we were put on probation. We were told that the mission president was extremely disappointed with us.
And mind you, at this point, we're doing everything that we were supposed to. Well, I don't want to say everything.
Let's not jump to conclusion. No, we were towing the line.
We were
towing the line.
Definitely, we realized that we were in a situation that you don't necessarily just get into. We were together. We were friends, right?
We were happy.
We were happy, and we're gonna be able to the next several months. But it turns out to be the next several months turn into be
a nightmare. Like a nightmare.
Absolute nightmare.
We were so unhappy. I have a business card in this journal of a travel agency that we went to.
That's right, because we were
in Melbourne, pricing flights from Melbourne to Salt Lake and Seattle. Just like we were just so tired of the game.
Well, what it was it came down to back in the 90s you had these little cassette players. And they had a VOR, voice operated recorder. That as soon as you start talking, it will record. We kind of had it in the back of our minds that
we knew the guys we were living with were spying on us.
Correct.
We knew that they were reporting to the mission president on the things that we were doing.
Well, let's see what they're saying.
Well, what happened was we'd been at a dinner appointment at the Chapels. Mm-hmm. That always went late. Mm-hmm. They got us back to our flat. We came in late. And by late, we're talking like 10:15, 10:20. We're supposed to be in the flat at 9:30. And I remember we came in and Wilstead comes out of his room and goes, you need to call President Hearst. And we went,
why?
For what? He's like, you need to call President Hearst. He wants to know when you guys get home. So we picked up the phone, called the mission home. He was like, where are you at? We said we were at a member's house. The night went long. It was a new member, a guy that had just joined the church. He wasn't in our area. I think I should say that. But anyways, it was a friend of mine. And we got home late. I think it was something to do with the trains. We'd had a problem with the trains because we were in Richmond. They were in Doncaster. So we have to call President Hearst. He's questioning us, wanting to know where we're at. He goes, okay, give me back to Wilstead. We give him back to Wilstead. Wilstead goes, okay. Yes, Prez. Okay, Prez.
No worries, Prez.
No worries, Prez. I'll talk to you in the morning, Prez. So we go back in our room, and I remember looking at Jim like, they're going to be talking in the morning. I'm like, do you still have that tape recorder that does voice operation? Like it picks up when
As a matter of fact, I do.
So we get ready to leave the next morning, and we slide this tape recorder under our couch, Wilstead, and press just record, and it will start recording whenever there's conversation. So we leave the flat, took a tram into Melbourne, walked around.
We came back for lunch.
Waited till about lunchtime.
Yeah.
Came back in and get the tape recorder and just start rewinding here. And so we press play.
And all of the things that we were assuming were happening
All of the stuff about a spy
are now being confirmed.
on his tape recorder. And he's telling him that we're sleeping in, that we're not studying, that we're not leaving the flat on time.
That we're coming back late every night.
And just like really straight up lying to the mission president about what we're doing. And you were pissed.
Yeah.
Do you remember how mad you were?
I think I lost my shit on that one.
You wanted to, and I was like, dude, if you can't beat him up. If you beat him up, you'll go home. They'll send you home. They win. I'm like, here's what I learned. They sell chocolate flavored dog food at the grocery store. Let's buy some of that. And we just bought this chocolate flavored dog food and we poured it in a bowl. We have a picture of the can. I've got a picture of the bowl. And we just poured it in a bowl and we just left it on the table. And then we started calling them Barkley and Scoobs.
For Scooby Snack.
We started calling them Scoob and Barkley. And we just watched them eat it for like a week. Probably wasn't. It was probably like 3 or 4 days.
It was a couple of days.
Probably 3 or 4 days. And then on the last day, we just put the can of Frisky's Go Pet dog food, Choco dog drops. And that was our way of like paying these guys back for lying because we couldn't call them out on it. We couldn't beat them up. We couldn't do anything about it. It just was this place of we're being watched. I just remember being overwhelmed with just depression and anxiety, and it just at any moment knowing that they could just pull us out and yank us out of an area and throw us somewhere else, and it just started getting so freaking negative.
But if there was a point where it became the crescendo, this was it. This was ultimately because all of our worst nightmares had now come to fruition.
I remember Hooper getting sent home. That did it to me because that was a sting operation with the APs where they set him up and they had these girls in the area want to meet him on the beach, and to find out that the mission home was setting up sting operations to send guys home was just like fuck. It
was certainly something that you didn't sign up for. I mean, this was never anything that you'd ever
There were
heard.
no primary songs about this. There's not a verse, and I hope they call me on a mission.
I'll drink to that because
I hope when I go on a mission, my
two.
president doesn't want to spy on me. It was just stupid.
But
it just was
when you-
childish. We referred to it as being in prison.
When
It
you
just
when you
felt
realize
awful.
that leaders, it was almost like a political campaign of wanting to become leaders within the mission, but leaders, and mind you, a lot of the missionaries that later became, that turned, and I say turn, they became somebody that they're not. But anyway, what I'm saying is,
Say what you want to say. What are you trying to say?
well, just that missionaries who, again, they were acting like boys, we're 19, 20, 21 years old, and all of a sudden to change just like that because
They became his own leader because they got a position of leadership.
Essentially, yep.
And it was like they just sold you out. And I remember calling up one of my companions when he became his own leader, one of my former companions. And I called him up and I was like, dude, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, Elder McKinley, what are you doing? I was like, what do you mean, what am I doing? I'm giving you shit. You're his own leader. And he goes, oh, you're not supposed to be calling me. That's disobedient. I went,
Disobedient. You spent the first 6 months of your mission swimming.
I just was
How
like,
is that being disobedient?
I was like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, you've changed. And did you change because you're now his own leader? And Prez was wanting to make me his own leader, and I kept fighting him. So that was causing beef right there. So now it's just all culminating to this one boiling point. And that boiling point happened to be July, which was when we were told we had to have a new state created. And the mission president was going home.
So rewind. This is going back to the beginning of the episode when we talked about the general authority coming out saying we had to create this fifth stake in the area or we would be held accountable. Well, at this point, the fifth stake is being created, and he's coming back out to make it official and do all the ceremony of creating the fifth stake. Our mission president, President Hearst, is going home.
He left on a Saturday.
He's going home. And so going back to what I was saying earlier, this is the point where we were just looking for this new start. I'm in Frankston. I'm with a companion I don't like, but I'm thinking, maybe, these last 4 months I'll be put with Mac or Hales or somebody that I like. I can just have a nice end to my mission with a fresh start.
Transfers happened at the end of the month, and you and I had been together, and you got transferred at the end of June.
For 3.5 months, we were together.
And then you got transferred at the end of June
To Doncaster.
for like 2 or 3 days. So there's my fourth transfer. No, you get transferred, and then like a week later, I get called saying you have a new companion coming, and I was like, I remember I lost it. I lost my mind. I lost it on whoever the AP was. I think it was Nielsen. And I just was like, what are you doing to us? I was like, do you guys even care that you're fucking with our lives? Like, you transfer me and then you put me with the guy and then you transfer him and then you bring him back to me? Like, what are you, like, don't get me wrong. I was thrilled that Sean and I were getting put back together, but I was just, I'd had enough. Like, emotionally, I was broke. I was done. I told my parents, I just want to come home. If it wasn't for you guys, I would want to be home. I've got the letters to prove it. My journal entries are full of me just saying, I'm just praying I can make it through till July, till Hearst goes home. I don't want to get sent home early. And now they're putting us back together. Come to find out, Elder Veltmeyer, who was one of the ones that was involved in that reunification of you and I can't remember who it was that told me, but somebody said that they had spoke to him and said, why did you guys put Sean or Hales and McKinley back together? And do you remember what his response was?
Something about 2 losers.
He said, we figured we would keep 2 zeros together.
2 zeros, that's right.
So to know that that was how the view of the mission home had of us, is that we were zeros, is completely in harmony with the way that I felt that they were treating us.
Yeah.
We were just zeros. We were just a number, whether we were a 10 or a 0. And I remember, so they had a big multi-state conference because the return of Elder V. Dallas Merrill was happening.
Essentially, the whole mission,
except
other
for
than
Tasmania,
was going to be there.
Comes to Melbourne
And
on this Sunday. So jump now to July 1st. It's a Saturday. It's the day that President Hearst is done. He's spent his year. His wife has suffered and endured the year of being away from her grandbabies in Provo, Utah, who she was telling us about going and visiting. You and I go out. We have an investigator. We are just like on cloud 9. We commit him to be baptized.
Somehow, ding dong, the witch is dead.
We went and bought a non-alcoholic bottle of champagne.
That's right.
And we took it back to the flat and we popped that motherfucker open and we toasted. And we said we did it. We lived through the reign of D. Earl Hearst. We did it. And I remember just celebrating and going, I've got 3 months to go. I have 3 months on this island.
Feeling like that weight lifted off of our shoulders, essentially.
And on top of that, this general authority was coming back and he was going to create a new stake. So we're told that Sunday is going to be this big regional conference. What did it mean when all the missionaries were coming in for a regional conference? What did it mean to you?
Big news.
It just meant I got to see friends.
You got to see your boys. You got to catch up. So Sunday's going to be this regional conference. We're toasting this non-alcoholic champagne.
Martinelli's, essentially, right?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
So we're excited. We get to see everybody from the mission that we want to see, that we're excited about seeing. There were people
wait a
that...
minute. A little while ago, you specifically said.
Howie.
Well, I was going to get to that. We were super excited to see Howie. But we were just excited. There was just this new vibration in the mission. New mission president.
It's just a new beginning.
New
The
mission-
excitement of a new beginning of
Yeah,
everything.
a mission president that was there for the full 3 years, not for just a year. And
We were on the last leg of our missions. We just wanted to have a good ending.
The
to
last
our 2
the
years.
last 6 months of our, I think I was on 6 months.
You were 6 months. I was 4. He was 3.
I don't have that journal in front of me. I was going to say I could probably pull it up and find it and see. I was so excited that we had seen everybody on Sunday. We just were just super excited. And then we came home from that night, Sunday night, July 2nd. And
I've got it.
here's what I remember
I got it right
exactly. This is exactly what went down leading up to the phone call. I'm not going to get to the phone call yet, but we came home, and I don't know if you remember this, but Wilstead and Roseveare came home late.
Yeah, that's right.
They came home late.
right.
And we knew they were always watching us. We had to call the mission president if we came home late. So they came home late, and we're just sitting in the living room, and we're like, hey, pick up the phone, call the mission president. You guys came home late. Oh, you came home late. Why are you guys late? What happened to you? Do you ever, I remember just feeling so like, I don't want to say overconfident, but I was just like, fucking, it's time for this shit to be done. And this tyranny and this bullshit that's gone on in this mission, it's going to change. It's going to go back. Not that it's going to go back to the way it was with Stolten, but it's not going to be just working for the man from Texas. I just remember just feeling like we made it. Like we made it.
And then
And then the phone rang.